Questions About War podcast, production by Lynn and Dave, episode 28, news summary. China tests supersonic passenger jet prototype at twice the speed of Concorde. Story by Abhishek Bhardwaj. Co-pilot, China has successfully tested a prototype of a supersonic passenger jet, the Yunjing, which can travel at Mach 4 or roughly 3,069 miles per hour, twice the speed of the Concorde. The Beijing-based company Space Transportation, also known as Linkong Chengjing Technology, announced the successful test flight and plans to conduct further engine tests in November. The goal is to have a full-size supersonic jet ready for its maiden flight by 2027. This new jet could revolutionize air travel, potentially reducing the flight time from Beijing to New York to just 2 hours. The Yunjing's design includes advanced features like vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL capabilities, and a high lift-to-drag ratio which enhances efficiency and stability at high speeds. What do you think about the future of supersonic travel and its potential impact on global transportation? Why it would be difficult for Trump to reverse the 2024 election results. Story by Dan DeLuche. Co-pilot, Dan DeLuche's article explains why it would be challenging for Trump to reverse the 2024 election results. Despite Trump's accusations of election fraud, several new safeguards make it unlikely that any attempt to overturn the results would succeed. These include an electoral law passed after the January 6th insurrection, recent court rulings, increased vigilance from state election officials, and more aggressive law enforcement. Unlike in 2020, Trump no longer has the power of the executive branch at his disposal. The Bipartisan Electoral Count Reform Act of 2022 has tightened the process for casting and counting electoral votes, making it more difficult for lawmakers to raise frivolous objections. What do you think about the measures in place to protect the electoral process? A mountaintop discovery is changing everything we knew about the Silk Road story by Michael Natal. Co-pilot, a recent LiDAR survey of Silk Road sites in Uzbekistan has revealed a more extensive urban history than previously thought. The aerial survey of the Tashbulaq and Tugambulaq sites uncovered over 300 medieval archaeological features suggesting a robust urban community. These sites, located at high altitudes, were unlikely to have supported large-scale urban development due to the challenging conditions. However, the new findings indicate that significant urbanization did occur in this area. This discovery challenges our understanding of the Silk Road, highlighting the complexity and scale of the trade routes that connected the Eastern and Western worlds. What do you think about the implications of this discovery for our understanding of history? Russian units are increasingly refusing to advance in the Zaporizhia. Co-pilot. According to the partisan movement ATESH, certain Russian units are increasingly refusing to advance in the Zaporizhia region. Specifically, squads from the 1440th Motorized Rifle Regiment have been detained by military police for their refusal to move forward. This defiance is becoming more frequent as soldiers recognize the high risks involved in assaulting Ukrainian defenses. The Russian command is reportedly planning to deploy new units to replace those that have retreated, despite previous assurances that conscript soldiers would not participate in the special military operation. What do you think about the implications of this situation for the ongoing conflict? NVIDIA's executive says AI will soon take human form. The machine is to the body what AI is to the brain. Story by Benzinga Neuro. Co-pilot. NVIDIA's Vice President of Worldwide Field Operations, Masataka Osaki, made a bold prediction at the Global Management Dialogue event in Tokyo. He stated that AI will soon take on a human-like form, emphasizing that the machine is to the body what AI is to the brain. Osaka highlighted Japan's potential to become a global leader in AI if businesses quickly connect AI and machines to create new services. This vision aligns with NVIDIA's broader strategy to integrate AI into various aspects of life, potentially revolutionizing industries and everyday experiences. What do you think about this? Israel destroys all Iranian S-300 systems in strike on military targets. Story by Alexandra Bashenko, co-pilot. During a significant airstrike on October 26, Israeli forces destroyed 3 Russian-made S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems in Iran. These systems were crucial to Iran's air defense, protecting key infrastructure like energy facilities and military bases. The operation involved around 100 Israeli warplanes, and the S-300 systems managed to intercept only a few of the missiles fired. This strike leaves Iran's infrastructure more vulnerable to future attacks. as Russia is unable to provide more advanced S-400 systems due to their use in the war against Ukraine. What do you think about the implications of this strike for regional stability? 11th Circuit orders election eve deadline for a Donald Trump. Story by Sean O'Driscoll. Co-pilot, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals has set an election eve deadline for Donald Trump to respond to a prosecution appeal in his classified documents case. This case involves charges that were dismissed by Judge Eileen Cannon in July. Trump now has until the close of business on November 4 to file his appendix of evidence. This decision underscores the ongoing legal battles Trump faces as he campaigns for the 2024 presidential election. What are your thoughts on the impact of these legal challenges on his campaign? Project Putin wanted to use to undermine dollar being shut down. Bloomberg. Story by Katerina Skarlap. Co-pilot. The Bank for International Settlements, BIS, is considering shutting down its pilot platform for cross-border payments known as the M-Bridge project. This project was identified by Vladimir Putin as a tool to circumvent sanctions and potentially undermine the dominance of the dollar in the global financial system. The M-Bridge project aims to enable global money transfers without relying on U.S. banks, establishing direct digital links between the central banks of participating nations. The decision to shut down the project was discussed at the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in Washington. Augustin Carstens, the BIS general manager, emphasized that the BIS cannot support any project for the BRICS because it cannot operate with countries subject to sanctions. What do you think about the potential impact of this decision on the global financial system? Can Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump? Latest poll update. Story by Alicia Hagelplan. Co-pilot. The latest polls show a tight race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, according to a Morning Consult poll. Harris leads Trump by 3 percentage points, with 50% of likely voters supporting her compared to 47% for Trump. Another poll by Reuters Ipsos shows Harris with a 1-point lead over Trump, 44% to 43%, which falls within the poll's margin of error. The race is incredibly close, and both candidates are making their final pitches to voters in key swing states. The outcome will likely hinge on these battleground states, making it one of the most closely watched elections in recent history. What do you think about the current state of the race? Scientists decipher 3,000-year-old map to find location of Noah's Ark. Story by Katie Boyden, co-pilot. Scientists have deciphered a 3,000-year-old Babylonian map known as the Imago Mundi, which they believe points to the final resting place of Noah's Ark. This ancient clay tablet housed at the British Museum features cuneiform text and a map of Mesopotamia, surrounded by a bitter river, believed to encircle the known world at the time. The back of the tablet provides directions stating that travelers must pass through 7 leagues to see something as thick as a Parsiktu vessel. Researchers followed these instructions and traced a path to Urartu, the Assyrian equivalent of Ararat, where an ancient Mesopotamian poem claims a man and his family landed on an ark to preserve life. This discovery offers a fascinating glimpse into ancient beliefs and the historical context of the Noah's Ark story. What do you think about this revelation? Russian-made missile really hit an F-35 fighter from Israel? Story by Maya Carlin, co-pilot. In 2017, there were reports claiming that an Israeli F-35 stealth fighter was struck by a Soviet-made S-200 missile fired from Syria. However, these reports were later debunked. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, clarified that while Syria did launch an anti-aircraft missile, it missed the target. Around the same time, Israeli media reported that an old F-35 was indeed damaged, but from a bird strike, not a missile. The F-35 Adir variant remains a crucial part of the IDF's air strategy, with unique capabilities tailored by Israeli defense contractors to enhance its combat performance. What do you think about the effectiveness of the F-35 in modern combat scenarios? As Musk seeks to launch tens of thousands of Starlink satellites, researchers urge caution. Story by Noah Haggerty, co-pilot. Elon Musk's ambitious plan to launch tens of thousands of Starlink satellites has raised concerns among researchers. Over 100 space researchers have signed a letter urging the federal government to conduct an environmental review before allowing SpaceX to continue its satellite launches. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, has already licensed SpaceX to launch nearly 12,000 satellites, and the company is now seeking approval to launch over 20,000 more. Researchers are worried about the potential environmental impact of these satellite constellations, including the injection of metals into the upper atmosphere and the interference with astronomical observations. The satellite's brightness and radio wave emissions have already made it difficult for astronomers to observe distant galaxies, planets, and stars. What do you think about the balance between technological advancements and environmental concerns? Ukraine Zelensky says war with Russia is being pushed beyond borders as North Korea joins in story by Ilya Novikov, Associated Press. Co-pilot. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has expressed concerns that the involvement of North Korean troops in the conflict is pushing the war beyond the borders of Ukraine and Russia. Western officials estimate that around 10,000 North Korean soldiers have been sent to support Russian forces. Zelensky mentioned that he has spoken with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, revealing that approximately 3,000 North Korean soldiers are already stationed near the Ukrainian front lines, with expectations that this number could increase to 12,000. This development has raised alarms about the potential destabilization of the Indo-Pacific region, including countries like Japan and Australia. The situation underscores the complex and evolving nature of the conflict with international implications. What are your thoughts on the involvement of North Korean troops in this conflict? Speaker Mike Johnson sheds light on his secret with Trump. Story by Steve Binnon. Co-pilot. Speaker Mike Johnson and Donald Trump have been stirring up quite a bit of speculation with their mention of a little secret at a recent rally. Trump hinted that this secret would help Republicans do well in the House elections, causing some unease among Democrats. Johnson later clarified that the secret is related to a get-out-the-vote strategy, not something diabolical. Despite this, the secrecy and timing have led to various theories and concerns about potential election interference. What do you think about the impact of such statements on public trust and political campaigns? Military academy named after Putin goes up in flames. Story by Catherine Freach. Co-pilot. A private military academy in Chechnya named after Vladimir Putin was hit by a drone attack early Tuesday morning. The Russian University of Special Forces located in Gudern's caught fire around 6:30 a.m. with the flames quickly extinguished by fire crews. Fortunately, there were no injuries. Air Defense responds in Kyiv and Oblast. Story by Ivashkiv Olena. Co-pilot. Air defense systems in Kyiv and Kyiv Oblast were active twice on the night of October 29th, responding to drone attacks. The Kyiv Oblast Military Administration reported that air defense forces were working on targets and urged residents to stay in shelters until the all-clear was given. The authorities also emphasized the importance of maintaining information silence and not recording or posting the work of defenders online. The situation highlights the ongoing challenges faced by Ukraine in defending against aerial threats. What are your thoughts on the current state of the conflict? You okay, Dave?
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Ukrainian patrols descend on nightlife to track down draft dodgers. Ukrainian conscription patrols have widened to upscale nightlife venues as Kyiv struggles. Co-pilot. Ukrainian conscription patrols have expanded their efforts to upscale nightlife venues in Kyiv to track down draft dodgers. This move comes as Ukraine faces depleted forces and falling recruitment numbers after more than 2 years of war with Russia. Military recruitment officers have been raiding restaurants, bars, and concert halls, checking military registration documents, and detaining men whose paperwork is not in order. This situation highlights the ongoing challenges Ukraine faces in maintaining its military strength. What are your thoughts on these measures? Not the smartest thing to do. Trump MSG rally fallout spreading like wildfire in Pennsylvania. Story by Marin Scotton, co-pilot. The fallout from Trump's Madison Square Garden rally is indeed spreading rapidly, especially in Pennsylvania. Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's offensive joke about Puerto Rico being a, quote, floating island of garbage, end quote, has sparked significant outrage. The Trump campaign has tried to distance itself from the remarks, but the damage seems to be done. In Pennsylvania, where there is a large Puerto Rican community, the backlash has been particularly intense. This controversy has given Vice President Kamala Harris a new line of attack in the battleground state. What do you think about the impact of such remarks on political campaigns and public opinion? Satellites making up China's 1,000 cells found to be exceeding brightness limits. Story by Bob Yurka. Co-pilot. China's 1,000-cell satellite project has been found to exceed brightness limits proposed by astronomical groups. Researchers from the IAU Center for the Protection of Dark and Quiet Skies from Satellite Constellation Interference, along with a colleague from the Belgian Working Group Satellites, measured the light intensity of 18 satellites and discovered that their brightness is approximately equal to most stars visible in the night sky. This excessive brightness poses a challenge for astronomers and astrophysicists, as it makes it more difficult to observe space beyond these satellites. The Chinese government plans to launch thousands more satellites over the next few years, which could further complicate ground-based astronomical observations. What are your thoughts on the impact of these satellite constellations on space observation? Researchers claim a breakthrough that could drastically improve AI power consumption. This kind of technology is feasible. Story by Leo Collis. Co-pilot. Researchers at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities have made a significant breakthrough in reducing AI power consumption. They developed state-of-the-art hardware that could cut the energy usage of AI applications by a factor of around 1,000. This innovation, known as computational random access memory, CRAM, allows data to be processed entirely within the memory array, eliminating the need for data to leave the grid where it is stored. This breakthrough is crucial as AI's energy demands are expected to double by 2026, with data centers potentially consuming more than 1,000 terawatt-hours of electricity annually. The new technology could make AI more energy efficient, addressing one of the major challenges in the field. What do you think about the potential impact of this technology on the future of AI? Study reveals how ulcer bacteria's ability to attach to inflamed stomach is affected by pH. Story by Klaas Bjornberg. Co-pilot. A study by Anna Arkvist's research group at Umeå University has revealed fascinating molecular details about how the gastric pathogen Helicobacter pylori binds to an inflamed stomach and how this process is influenced by the stomach's pH levels. This research is crucial because H. pylori infections can lead to peptic ulcer disease and stomach cancer if left untreated. The study found that the pH levels in the stomach vary significantly from highly acidic in the stomach lumen to nearly neutral at the outermost layer of the stomach's epithelial cells, which is protected by a mucus layer. H. pylori bacteria are primarily found in this mucus layer or tightly attached to the outermost cell layer. The bacteria adapt to these varying pH levels by adjusting the expression of certain proteins, which helps them survive and persist in the stomach environment. Understanding these mechanisms is a significant step towards identifying the characteristics that contribute to the persistence of H. pylori infections and developing more effective treatments. What do you think about the potential implications of this research for treating stomach infections? No limits. U.S. clears Ukraine to use American weapons freely as North Korean troops join Russia's front line. Story by Peter Brown. Co-pilot. The Pentagon has announced that the United States will not impose new restrictions on Ukraine's use of American weapons, even as North Korean troops reportedly mobilized to support Russian forces near Ukraine's border. This policy decision comes amid heightened concern over North Korea's expanding role, with 10,000 North Korean soldiers now reported to be stationed in Russia's Kursk Oblast. President Joe Biden described North Korea's direct involvement as a very dangerous development. This shift marks a bold stance by Washington as North Korea, long an isolated ally of Russia, deploys forces in one of the conflict's most intense regions. What are your thoughts on this development? Satellite photos show Israel hit Iran former nuclear weapons test building missile facilities. Researchers say satellite photos show Israel hit Iran former nuclear weapons test building missile facilities, researchers say. Co-pilot. Satellite images have revealed significant damage to Iranian military facilities near Tehran following an Israeli airstrike. The attack targeted the Parchin military base, which was linked to Iran's former nuclear weapons program, and the Kohir facility associated with missile production. The images show that several buildings were destroyed, including those used for high explosive tests and solid fuel mixing for ballistic missiles. This strike underscores the ongoing tensions and high stakes in the region. What are your thoughts on the implications of this attack? U.S. to send Ukraine 2,000 Humvee vehicles. Story by Eric Malinowski, co-pilot. The United States is set to send 2,000 Humvee vehicles to Ukraine as part of its military aid package. These vehicles will help fill gaps in Ukraine's material needs and enable the Ukrainian military to maneuver more rapidly to counter enemy movements. The Humvees can be used effectively in urban environments where tanks and artillery are less effective compared to compact and maneuverable vehicles. Some units have already converted them into mobile service platforms for on-the-go repairs of armored equipment in field conditions. What do you think about the impact of this aid on Ukraine's defense capabilities? Trump has already selected a scapegoat if the election doesn't go his way. Story by Gustav Killander, co-pilot. It appears that Donald Trump has already lined up a scapegoat in case he loses the election. Michael Whatley, the chair of the Republican National Committee. Trump has tasked Whatley with building the Republicans' sizable election integrity group. Trump has been using his false claims about election fraud to argue that he didn't lose the 2020 election and has been saying during the 2024 campaign that Vice President Kamala Harris can only win by cheating. The Republicans claim to have accumulated as many as 200,000 poll watchers and poll workers. This program has set together evidence of voter fraud amid GOP lawsuits targeting rules governing voting eligibility and ballot processing procedures. Trump has made it clear that if Whatley fails in upholding election integrity, he will be blamed for any loss. What do you think about this strategy and its potential impact on the election? U.S.-made tank killer Switchblade destroys Russian SAM system in rare video. New footage appears to show a Ukrainian-operated U.S.-made drone destroy a Russian short-range. Copilot, new footage shows a Ukrainian-operated U.S.-made Switchblade 600 drone destroying a Russian Tor air defense system. The Tor system, also known as the SA-15 Gauntlet, is a short-range mobile surface-to-air missile system capable of detecting and intercepting threats up to 10 miles away. This video highlights the effectiveness of the Switchblade 600 in combat situations. What do you think about the impact of such advanced drone technology on modern warfare? And we will pause for a break. Be back in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for your patience. The U.S. Army may have the answer to the bogged-down bloodbath warfare of Ukraine. Story by David Axe, co-pilot. The U.S. Army is developing new strategies to address the challenges of modern warfare seen in Ukraine. One promising solution is the Bell V-280 Valor, a tilt-rotor assault craft that combines the vertical takeoff and landing capabilities of a helicopter with the speed and range of an airplane. This aircraft could enable the Army to bypass enemy defenses and deploy troops hundreds of miles away in a single night. Major General Brett Sylvia, commander of the 101st Airborne Division, revealed that the Army is already writing new doctrine for the V-280 Valor. This approach could potentially solve the problem of breaking through stiff enemy defenses, which both Russia and Ukraine have struggled with in their ongoing conflict. What do you think about the potential impact of this new technology on modern warfare? Calling Tom Clancy, Russia lost an attack submarine armed with 2 nuclear-tipped torpedoes. Story by Brent M. Eastwood, co-pilot. The Soviet Union's Project 685 K-278 Cosmolet, also known as the Mike-class submarine, was an advanced nuclear-powered vessel capable of reaching remarkable depths due to its titanium hull. However, a series of malfunctions led to its tragic sinking in 1989, claiming 42 lives. Years later, scientists discovered radioactive leaks from the wreck with radiation levels near the sub significantly higher than normal, raising environmental concerns. The Comsomolets, get it right in a minute, stands as a cautionary tale for nuclear-powered vessels. The Russians were particularly concerned about the plutonium from the 2 nuclear-tipped torpedoes leaking and radioactive isotopes like cesium-137 and strontium-90 still coming out of the nuclear reactor. This incident highlights the ongoing risks and challenges associated with nuclear-powered submarines. What are your thoughts on the implications of this incident for modern naval operations? Russian forces make largest advance in Ukraine since early 2022. Story by Catherine Fritsch, co-pilot. Russian forces have made significant advances in Ukraine, capturing an estimated 478 square kilometers, 184 square miles of territory since early October. This marks Russia's largest monthly territorial gain since March 2022. Most of these gains are concentrated in the eastern Donetsk region, where Russian forces have seized approximately 324 square kilometers, 125 square miles. The situation in Donetsk Oblast is particularly challenging for Ukrainian forces, who are facing intense pressure from advancing Russian troops. The capture of towns like Selidov and Hernik has further complicated the defense efforts. What are your thoughts on the current state of the conflict? I'm an election law expert. Here's what happens when ballots are burned. Opinion by Richard L. Hasen, co-pilot. Richard L. Hasen's opinion piece delves into the consequences of burning ballots, highlighting the potential impact on election integrity. Recent arson fires in ballot boxes in Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon have raised concerns about the security of our elections. While the motive behind these acts remains unclear, they are seen as targeted attempts to disrupt the election process. In Oregon, fire suppressant inside the ballot box protected most of the ballots, with only 3 being damaged. Affected voters are being contacted to cast replacement ballots. This incident underscores the importance of robust election administration systems that can track and replace damaged ballots. However, the fear of violence or interference could deter people from voting, making it crucial for law enforcement to prioritize investigating and prosecuting such acts. Federal and state laws classify ballot burning as a crime, with severe penalties for those found guilty. What do you think about the measures in place to protect the electoral process? Duda names condition for Poland to transfer MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine. Story by Maria Kolina, co-pilot. Poland is ready to transfer its MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine, but there's a catch. President Andrzej Duda has stated that this will only happen if NATO allies guarantee the security of Polish airspace until Poland receives new aircraft. This means that Western aircraft would need to temporarily protect Polish skies, ensuring that Poland's air defense remains robust during the transition. What do you think about this condition and its potential impact on the conflict? Russian Terminator tank held as superweapon falls to Ukrainian forces. Story by Catherine Fritsch, co-pilot. The Ukrainian 79th Air Assault Brigade successfully repelled a Russian offensive in the Krakow area, destroying 9 armored vehicles, 2 tanks, a heavy BMPT Terminator tank support vehicle, and 4 motorcycles. The BMPT Terminator, designed by Russia's Ural Baganozavad, was intended to support and protect tanks on the battlefield, despite its heavy armor and advanced weaponry, including 2 30mm autocannons, grenade launchers, a machine gun, and 4 Attack-T anti-tank missile launchers. The vehicle has faced criticism for its performance. The Ukrainian forces' success in targeting the Terminator underscores the limitations of Russia's military equipment in modern conflict. What do you think about the effectiveness of such advanced military technology? Ted Cruz's chances of losing in Texas. Recent polls. Story by Ewan Palmer, co-pilot. Ted Cruz is currently favored to win re-election in Texas, but the race is tighter than expected. Polls show Cruz leading his Democratic challenger Colin Allred by a narrow margin. According to 538, Cruz has an average lead of 3.4 points. Decision Desk HQ The Hill's national average gives Cruz a 3.1 point lead and a 76% chance of victory. However, a recent internal survey by GBAO Strategies for Allred's campaign showed the candidates tied at 46%. Other polls, like one from Emerson College The Hill, show Cruz with a 1 point lead. The race is close, and both candidates are making their final pitches to voters. What do you think about the current state of the race? Russia withholds data as inflation soars. Rates hit 21%. Story by KKG, co-pilot. Russia's central bank has raised its key interest rate to a record high 21% to combat soaring inflation driven by massive government spending on the military amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The central bank's decision comes as inflation in Russia hit 8.6% year-on-year in September, well above the target of 4%. The Kremlin has been withholding detailed inflation data, which has raised concerns about the transparency of the economic situation. The high interest rate is intended to curb inflation by making borrowing more expensive, thereby reducing spending and demand for goods and services. However, this move also highlights the challenges Russia faces in balancing economic growth with the pressures of military expenditure and sanctions. What are your thoughts on the impact of these economic measures on Russia's future? China responds with aggressive moves after massive U.S. arms sale to Taiwan. Story by Evan Williams, co-pilot. China has reacted strongly to the recent $2 billion arms deal between the U.S. and Taiwan. Beijing has surrounded Taiwan with aircraft, warships, and drones, escalating tensions in the region. The Chinese People's Liberation Army PLA deployed 22 aircraft into the Taiwan Strait, with 17 crossing into waters considered by Taiwan as part of its territory. Additionally, the Chinese aircraft carrier Liaoning has been deployed. China's foreign ministry condemned the arms sale, stating it violates the One China principle and undermines regional peace. This situation highlights the ongoing geopolitical struggle and the delicate balance of power in the Taiwan Strait. What are your thoughts on the implications of this arms deal and China's response? Huge fire at Peshawar factory causes extensive damage. Firefighters in Peshawar on Sunday finally brought a fire under control that destroyed a factory. Co-pilot. A massive fire broke out at a tissue and diaper factory in Peshawar's industrial estate, causing extensive damage. Firefighters battled the flames for over 20 hours before finally bringing the fire under control. The fire, reportedly caused by a short circuit, destroyed the factory and affected thousands of workers. Despite the intense efforts, no injuries were reported. This incident highlights the challenges faced by emergency services in dealing with large-scale industrial fires. What are your thoughts on the measures that can be taken to prevent such incidents in the future? Ukraine, Compromise or Collapse? Story by Anatol Levin. Co-pilot. Anatol Levin's article, Ukraine, Compromise or Collapse, paints a grim picture of the current situation on the Ukrainian front lines. He argues that the present course of the conflict is unsustainable and could lead to either a Ukrainian collapse or direct NATO involvement in the war with Russia. Levin highlights the significant challenge faced by Ukrainian forces, including being outnumbered and outmatched in artillery and ammunition. He also points out the growing signs of exhaustion, demoralization, and desertion among both the elites and ordinary people. Despite the Western support, the sheer scale of Russian resources in terms of industry and manpower gives Russia a considerable advantage. The article suggests that more Western weapons might have made a difference if provided earlier, but now the Russian advantage is too great for these supplies to have a significant impact. Levin also notes that Western industry cannot produce the number of artillery shells Ukraine needs, and NATO cannot manufacture more soldiers for Ukraine. Given these realities, Levin argues for a serious reevaluation of U.S. policy toward the war in Ukraine, suggesting that a compromise peace might be a more viable solution than continuing the current course. What are your thoughts on the potential outcomes of this conflict? Trump invents story of Marjorie Taylor Greene being blown up in a hydrogen car as she watches on at rally. Story by James Liddell. Co-pilot. During a recent rally in Atlanta, Donald Trump shared a bizarre story about Marjorie Taylor Greene being blown up in a hydrogen-powered car while she watched from the audience. Trump has been vocal about his opposition to hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, claiming they are dangerous and can explode like an atom bomb. He used this story to emphasize his stance against hydrogen cars, which he believes should not be part of the U.S. automotive industry. What do you think about Trump's comments on hydrogen fuel cell vehicles? Croatia to send M84 tanks and M80 IFVs to Ukraine. Story by Eric Malinovsky, co-pilot. Croatia is set to send 30 M84 tanks and 30 M80 infantry fighting vehicles, IFVs, to Ukraine as part of a military aid package. This decision was formalized in a letter of intent signed by Croatian Defense Minister Ivan Anusik and German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius in Berlin. In return, Germany will provide financial support to Croatia for the acquisition of up to 50 Leopard 2A8 tanks. This move is part of a broader effort by Western countries to bolster Ukraine's defensive capabilities against Russian aggression. Croatia has already provided military aid to Ukraine valued at over 200 million euros, $216 million. What do you think about the impact of this military aid on the conflict? NASA backs Hawking's prediction of Earth's end urges urgent climate action. Story by Jerusalem Post staff. Co-pilot. NASA has recently supported Stephen Hawking's prediction about the urgency to act against the climate crisis and other threats. Hawking, renowned for his contributions to physics and astronomy, had long urged humanity to begin the process of colonizing other planets to ensure survival. He estimated that Earth could become uninhabitable by the year 2600 due to climate change and resource depletion turning into a gigantic ball of fire. Hawking emphasized the need for global change to prevent this dire outcome, highlighting threats like artificial intelligence, genetically modified viruses, and nuclear war. NASA has taken these warnings seriously, focusing on protecting the planet through programs that monitor threats like asteroids and observe the impact of climate change in real time. What do you think about the urgency of addressing climate change and exploring other planets? North Korean troops clash with Ukrainian forces in Russia. Story by KB. Co-pilot. North Korean troops have reportedly clashed with Ukrainian forces in Russia's Kursk region. This marks a significant escalation in the conflict, with North Korean soldiers now actively participating in combat. The deployment of these troops has raised international concerns, with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte describing it as a significant escalation and a threat to global security. The involvement of North Korean forces highlights the deepening military cooperation between Russia and North Korea, which has been growing since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. This development underscores the complex and evolving nature of the conflict, with potential implications for both the Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic regions. What are your thoughts on the implications of this alliance? China tests supersonic passenger jet prototype at twice the speed of Concorde. Story by Abhishek Bhardwaj, co-pilot. China has successfully tested a prototype of a supersonic passenger jet, the Yunjing, which can travel at Mach 4 or roughly 3,069 miles per hour, twice the speed of the Concorde. The Beijing-based company Space Transportation, also known as Lynn Shenzhen Technology, announced the successful test flight and plans to conduct further engine tests in November. The goal is to have a full-size supersonic jet ready for its maiden flight by 2027. This new jet could revolutionize air travel, potentially reducing the flight time from Beijing to New York to just 2 hours. The Yunjing's design includes advanced features like vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL capabilities, and a high lift-to-drag ratio, which enhances efficiency and stability at high speeds. Please join us next time on Questions About War podcast.